Okay, for this week's homework you had to do problem 16 and 17, and we're working on multiplication and division of integers. The first thing you want to do is remember your rules, and the rules were a negative times a negative always equals a positive times a positive always equals a positive, and a positive times a negative equals a negative. And the same goes for the division. For the first problem here, 16, you need to you have 4 different problems you have to figure out, A through D, and you need to write the rest of the fact families for what you're given. So for this one, A, I'll just walk through it with you to show you how it's done, and then the rest I'd like you to pause the video before I show you it and try to do it yourself. So here we go. For the first one, you're given negative 5 times positive 2 equals negative 10. Again, you have a negative times a positive equaling a negative. Now we need to rewrite this into the fact families, so the signs are not going to change, but the operation here, remember this is the operation, those are the signs. Operation, signs. Anyway, signs don't change, operation will. So for the first one, we can rewrite this as negative 10 divided by negative 5, which will equal 2. Negative divided by a negative equaling a positive. And the final part of the fact family is negative 10 again divided by 2, which equals negative 5. Negative divided by a positive equaling a negative. Okay, for our next problem, problem B, we're given negative 4 times negative 6 equals positive 24. It's a negative times a negative equaling a positive. Why don't you try to do this on your own first? So pause the video right about now. And maybe you're back. The way you solve this, and a good way of starting to think about this, is that you have a multiplication problem here, and when we write the fact families, we're going to be using opposite operations. So the opposite of multiplication is division, and the product here of negative 4 times negative 6 is 24, so this is going to be what you're going to divide to start your next problem of the fact family. So if we start with 24 and divide it by any one of these two numbers, we'll end up with the other. So let's divide it by negative 4. And 24 divided by negative 4 is going to equal negative 6. Now we have one more that we can write, 24, starting again with 24, and make that divided by negative 6 now, and we'll get negative 4 as our answer. Positive divided by a negative equals a negative. We're on to problem C, and in problem C we're given positive 0.6 divided by negative 0.3 equals negative 2. Take a moment to try this on your own and pause your video, and then we'll come back and solve it. And we're pausing, and we're back. This can be pretty easy to figure out if we start noticing the patterns. And one of the first things we want to notice is that this is a division number sentence that we're trying to find the rest of the fact family for. And because it's a division number sentence, we know that the first number is the number that's being divided. And in every fact family, the number that's being divided will show up twice as part of the fact family as the first number. Think back to problem B we just did, and when we rewrote the next two parts of the fact family, they were division statements, and they both started with 24. That's the number that's being divided. So looking at this problem, it's starting with 0.6. That's the number that's being divided. So the next number sentence in the fact family has to start with 0.6, positive 0.6, and it's dividing, or being divided by negative 2. It's already been divided by negative 0.3, so the only number left we have is negative 2, and that equals negative 0.3. The next one has to be a multiplication problem. We've already had two division problems in the fact family, so we're left with one multiplication problem. And this is the number that has been divided, so that's going to end up being our answer for any multiplication problem we write. So we could write negative 0.3 times negative 2 equals positive 0.6, or we could also write negative 2 times negative 0.3 equals positive 0.6. Either way, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter what order you multiply in. That's the commutative property of multiplication. Remember that. We only have to really write one of these to complete the fact family, but you could write both if you want. These, on the other hand, the division statements in the fact family, are not commutative. We can't rewrite either of them as something different. For example, you couldn't rewrite negative 2 divided by 0.6. You'd end up with something like negative 3.333, something like that. It comes up to be a really weird answer. So the division statements are not commutative. The order does matter. It has to be this number in the front, the number that's being divided. It can't switch orders. So hopefully that helps. I'm not going to do problem B or D for you. I want you to try to do that one on your own. Hopefully the first three here will have helped you enough. Good luck.